Hello and welcome. Well, I mean, if you haven't been around your television or your radio today, then you have missed out big time. Well, the president met the press as part of his third-year anniversary in office. He met the press and everyone is saying, what a brave thing to do. Because it wasn't like the questions were pre-planned or anything. He just stood up there on the podium and it says, fire away at will, whatever he thinks you want to ask me, ask me. And media man after media man after media woman queued up and they asked whatever questions that were worrying them. From Guantanamo Bay, tariff hikes, tax increases, utility increases, everything that's bothering the average Ghanaian, they asked. And indeed, he answered it very well, very nicely. Pleaded to our Christian conscience to even be welcoming to prisoners, the whole shebang. So we are here to discuss it. And you at home can also join and tell us how you feel. I mean, after listening to this speech, do you still think you're living in the same country that the president was talking about? Or you think, no, the speech was a little bit sweeter than the country. But hey, this is what we're here to discuss. Power, corruption, the media, everything was on the table today. What was your view? My name is Nana Sakwa. This is PM Express. And when I come back, I will introduce my guests who are going to dissect this issue. So don't move. Thank you very much for staying. President Mahama's third-year media encounter. I think it was brave. I'm sure most of you at home would agree with me that it was a brave move. It was very well conducted. His posture was good. His demeanor was good. His utterances, his delivery was spot on. You can't fault him for that. Indeed, if you are a floating voter, I'm sure by now you are thinking that, oh, this is the way I am going to vote. But we're going to discuss the issues. And with me in the studio, right next to me is Dr. Ishmael Aka, Head of Policy Unit at ASEP, and also Suleiman Barima, who's Executive Director for Media Foundation West Africa, to help me dissect what went on today. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sure that, Doctor, I mean, if you didn't know what to vote, I'm sure you're convinced now. If you're not sure which way to vote, I'm sure you are decided. You're decided now. But that's just on the light side. General impressions of what happened today.
Well, I think that it was a good step. I mean, there were a number of issues. People wanted to understand these detainees from US, the energy sector levies, so many other things. So I think it gave us the opportunity, the media, the opportunity to ask questions. And I think the president did his best in providing some answers to some of them. So I think it's a good step.
Suleiman, I mean, what would you say, 95 or 99?
Well, I think I'll look at it from multiple perspectives. First of all, I think it's a great thing that once in a while, the media community gets the opportunity to interact with the president and to ask questions that are supposed to reflect the concerns of society. And so for the opportunity provided, even though it's not the first time a president is granting our media the opportunity to interact with him, I think that the president can't decide to say, well, I am not going to offer these kinds of platforms again. I'm going to use different ways of communicating to the masses. And so for the fact that that was done, I think it's something that is commendable. The other point to look at is whether or not the questions touched on the key issues, what an ordinary man would think as the key issues, or what people are thinking about, what people are concerned about, what people are worried about in our country. I think some of the questions touched on what I believe are the fundamental issues of concern in our country today. The other bit is perhaps what you talk about in terms of the delivery of the president and whether or not his delivery was up to the point. And I would say yes, but that is also, in my view, because I think that about more than 60% of the questions that were asked were framed in such a way that unless somebody who is not really on top of his job, they were framed in such a way that it was easy to answer, some of which, were like, for me, leading questions or questions that were sort of getting the president to respond to critics on various issues that the government is under attacking. So yes, the president did well in terms of delivery, but could it have been because of the way many of the questions were framed?
Doc, let me come back to you. And when I come to you, I'll start with fuel and fuel taxes. Now, the president is saying that once upon a time, we all enjoyed, somewhat free energy or subsidized energy for a long time. So there was a big black hole to fill. So indeed, as fuel prices are going down in the world, yes, we are also saying hallelujah, but we are saying hallelujah because we can now increase to scream of. Whereas others are saying hallelujah because their prices are going down. We are saying hallelujah because we can cream off what we make. Bernard Avile said, look, you've increased fuel, you've increased taxes, and you've increased utility. I mean, it's like the treble.
3 in 1.
In Dami, what is it? Dam, kwakwa or something. In Dam, they have a term. It's like pa. So what's ASEM's position? I mean, there's 1.5 billion that we need to get back. And now we have Ameri and we have this who don't provide fuel as cheap as these ones. So it's like, where do we go?
I think that the energy sector taxes, we should divide it into the various taxes that were imposed. When you look at all the taxes, you can say it's either good or bad. But some are actually genuine, which I think we need. But there are so many of them, I think we've overpaid. So let's take it one. When you look at the taxes that we imposed, we had existing taxes like toll debt recovery levy. Toll is not operating now. This tax was imposed in 2003, and we are supposed to pay 8 pesos per every litre we buy. Now, when you do your calculation, we should have paid this tax within 7 years. 2015, even when you look at Act 642 that establishes the toll debt recovery, it requires the finance minister to go to parliament every year to tell them, this is the audited account, this is how much we've received of the toll debt, this is how much we've paid, and this is what is left. Nothing has done.
And that's Act what?
Act 642. We've not done any Section 13 of that. We've not done any of these things, and we continue to pay tax. We don't know what is being used for. Then we have the bust margin. Bust is supposed to store strategic, more like petroleum stock for the country. But again, it has operates commercial wing. So when the BDCs and OMCs import petroleum, they go to bust stores for them and they pay a fee. So when they pay that fee, it becomes a cost to the BDCs. So when they are charging us, they add that cost to the cost of petroleum. Now consumers are also paying bust margin again to bust. So it's like double payment for the same service. So these are some of them. Then we come to even, yes, we owe, government owes CCG, government owes VRA. Who is government? If we don't investigate to look at how this debt came about, inefficiency in the system, that is one. Government agencies and bungalows using electricity are not paying. Today, the president said that, yes, he doesn't understand why the ministries are not paying. I don't think it should be that difficult. We should fix prepaid meters in all bungalows and ministries. If you don't pay, you don't have light. Now, if they have the postpaid meters and you are asking me, you don't understand, how do we go about this? So until we become serious that these are the challenges, these things created the debt. Yes, probably we may need to bring some tax so that we get money to pay ECG and VRA. But if we don't solve the fundamentals, we continue putting taxes on people and may not be fair. The final one is the stabilization levy, another levy that has come, about 12 pesos on petrol, 10 pesos on diesel. Now, what are we going to use the stabilization levy? You know, 4 things actually determine the price of petroleum in Ghana: the import parity price, international oil prices, the taxes, the margin of BDCs and OMCs, and exchange rate. Now, there are instances where the exchange rate, the CD is very bad. International prices may go high. So the government may use portion of the stabilization fund to support. This is a good idea. But when you look at 2012, when oil prices were even high, the average change in the oil price was around 0.01%. 2013, it was 0.36%. Now you impose a tax that would take about 4%. Then you increase road fund tax by about 330%. So I think that there are certain taxes that should go. We should scrap it, like Boston toll debt recovery. There are certain taxes we have to reduce so that consumers will feel the benefit of the deregulation now that prices are low. Because if we don't, when prices start increasing and you want to increase, it may not be a very good thing.
So, see, with my little economics, and even in the president's speech said that, there are 30% of the country who, literally file taxes and pay taxes. And I'm sure even out of that 30%, about, 20% are just, they're doing the formalities and, 10 actually paying any serious or meaningful taxes. So all these increases and everything are like geared towards that 30%. Could we spread it to the other 70 and try and bring a few more people into the loop?
Well, Nana, you see, for me, when people talk about taxes and all, and of course we are all taxpayers, I think that every month you look at how much of your money is going into taxes. Listening to the president, he made the point that as a lower middle level income country, if you look at the tax base or how much of our revenue is going into taxes, it's still around 17 or 18%, when globally the average would have been around 22% or so. I think many people who complain about taxes and so on do so because of what we also experience as what are the taxes used for? Where are the monies going? For example, I felt very scandalized when the president, did acknowledge or tried to justify the use of about 1.7 million for what came to be known as the branding of the buses. And the president said that the buses had to be resprayed, and then instead of saying it as putting my pictures on the bars, he called it labeling. Now, if you are in a country where the president is trying to justify why more taxes have to be imposed because of economic difficulties and so on and so forth, and that is why I talk about perhaps the framing of the questions, I would have been interested in getting the president to justify. If you are complaining, or if we all know about the difficulties in the country, for which reason, more taxes have to be imposed, how do you justify the use of 1.7 million to have your photographs or your pictures on buses? We are in a country where, Nana, in your traditional area, I'm sure that once in a while you hear of people going to jail for having stolen a goat or plantain. And I'm sure that there could have been an option where the courts would say, refund the goat or refund the plantain. We are currently in a country where people sign dubious contracts. 2 years afterwards, we are told, well, the contracts were dubious and the monies were wrongfully paid. And what do we see? What we hear and see is that these people are often asked to refund the money, and then on top of that, they negotiate for terms of payment. And now, which citizen in this country wouldn't be happy if the state could provide them with 100,000 Ghana cedis, and after a year or two, what they have to do is just to refund that money, however they have used it, whatever they have used the money for, no one cares about it. And on top of that, you are given months to pay. So you can arrange and say, okay, I would pay 10,000 a month, and so on and so forth. So I think that people are extremely concerned about these developments that we are witnessing.
That's what the president was saying, that because it's a democracy, he just has to give it to the Attorney General, and then that's it. His job is done.
Now not to praise any government, but just to cite an instance, we know about the Malan Issa case, the former sports minister. He went to jail for $46,000, isn't it? I think the money that got missing was around $46,000. I'm sure that he would have been happy if he had the option of refunding or repaying that money to government chest, because, well, under your custody, that money was lost. But, this man lost his job and went to jail. I don't think that democracy means that people can commit crimes with impunity. And for example, the president said on the matter relating to the branding of the bars that, the Attorney General went around, consulted with people who do, businesses of painting buses and so on and so forth. And it was realized that, well, the money that could have gone into it would have been around 1.9. And so that was then set aside. And then the 1.7 has to be repaid. And he said, as I speak, there are plans to engage and to arrange for the terms of payment. Now if you give me 1 million and I use it to buy treasury bills for 1 year, and you ask me to give back your money, I would have made profit. And that is how our resources are being spent. And why wouldn't I be concerned about taxes? Why would I be happy paying taxes when I know that we would use 1.7 million to put the photographs of the president on a bus in a country like this? So I think people who are complaining have a legitimate concern, and people would happily pay and even pay more if we realize that, look, our monies are being used for the benefit of ourselves, for our children, for the future generation, and so on and so forth.
But I wrote my list of questions here, even though I wasn't invited. So I had my list of questions. You never know, maybe I would have gotten an invitation. But look, my first question was, where is justice for Samuel Nujoma? To date, we don't know the driver, the company hasn't issued any apology, so I was a bit that, and all us media was sat in the room, and I felt a bit that we let him down by nobody, demanding justice. I mean, look at the Kuala incident. As soon as it happened, Kuala has come out to say, oh, I'll buy you a car, I'll fix you a car, I'll do this. And so many incidents where if you get hit by an institution, the institution normally comes out to say, oh, look, sorry, we won't do that again, we've corrected it, there's a check. We don't even know the driver, whether he has a license, whether he's even Ghanaian, I don't know. Sula, let me stay with you. I mean, should we have demanded some justice?
Well, I think that people have said that journalists in this country fight for the rights of other people by themselves, So there's little when it comes to issues that affect us. And I believe that apart from the Samuel Nujoma case that you have legitimately raised, there's also the issue about close to 200 journalists petitioning the president over an incident involving a presidential staffer abusing a journalist. And not because the Media Foundation was at the forefront of this petition, but I think that it would have been appropriate for somebody to have asked the president that, well, a number of journalists, over 100 journalists petitioned your office demanding action on an incident, or a violation by your staffer, and we haven't heard you on that petition yet. Just the status of it. There was nothing on that. I don't know if there was any question relating to the new LI by the National Media Commission, which some of us have expressed concerns about in terms of provisions for imprisonment, what I see as pre-publication censorship, what others describe as backdoor return to criminal libel law, and so on and so forth. These are issues that affect the media environment. Apart from that, I think that when the whole issue about the Media Development Fund came up, when that 1 million was misapplied or abused, people expressed concern, and I remember the president in a similar media encounter had said that he was going to follow up and make sure that the remedial measures are put in place. And we had indications that it was something that was going to continue. Nobody asked that. So I think that it wasn't just the Samuel Nuama case, but there wasn't, in my view, unless I didn't hear, any question about the media itself and developments that we are witnessing in the country. And so, I don't know, but maybe people felt we are fine as a media industry, and so there was no pertinent question to ask.
I'm going to take a break here. When I come back, we're going to Doctor to find out with regards to taxes on the fuel and stuff like that. I mean, what would have been a better option? Because that's one really bite, and it's only January, and we have 11 more months to go. Stay tuned. Thank you very much for staying, and we are discussing Meet the Press with the president today, which I think the demeanor and everything, composure and everything was perfect, but we just go into the intricacies of what actually happened behind the scenes. But there were insights on some of the comments of the journalists who went to the press conference today, what they felt about it. So let's watch that.
It was a difficult question. You could see his countenance change in answering the question. He was trying to explain. Look, when you tax people and increase taxes, it's never an exciting thing. And I felt he would say, look, this is one of the most difficult things I've had to do. It's tougher than I expected. I'm sorry, but I pledge that we'll make sure we use the money well. He tried to look at, he talked about some 27 percentage price. I really didn't get it. Let's be honest.
Eventually, he told us that it was necessary.
And you realize that when there was, in answer to another question, he came back to the taxes because I think he felt himself that he hadn't answered the question well, because he then came back to the tax question like 6 questions afterwards. So, and you could tell that the tax question had been addressed. I feel, for me, it's one of the key issues in the year. And I think the government needs a more cogent explanation, because look, you do a radio show, I do a radio show. People are not happy. Fuel price increases, tariff adjustments, new taxes, all within the same month, and people buy credit and the credit runs out within a week. Come on.
There's something refreshing about his answer, though. Way down the line, he has tried to answer your question. He says, for the very first time, he said this year is going to be a difficult year. The president has never said that before. Normally, he would say, "Oh, the medium prospects are bright, etc."
But again,
that's an admission for the first time from a politician that we should brace ourselves for tough
that's
time.
Very transformational, honestly. Let me very respect every average thinker would see, because you started the year with a tripartite increment in tax.
The president is a good communicator, and he tried to display that. Even though most of the questions, he just touched on it and went. And of course, considering the time that he had, he couldn't have answered all the questions into details. But I feel that he did a good job with it.
Well, my question was about how the president intends to overcome a hurdle, which is that the NDC has been in power for 8 years, or almost 8 years. But the president, which is President John Dramani Mahama, is 3 years in. His administration has took 3 years. He's just got a year more to go. My question to him was that, how does he intend to overcome this hurdle of convincing Ghanaians that the NDC, of which he is their flag bearer, should be giving a third term? Once the party goes 8 years, they say, well,
yeah. Were you happy with the answer you got?
Well, I think substantially yes. Okay. Substantially yes.
Comments of some of the colleagues that were at the Flagstaff House today, and how they felt with the response to the questions with which they asked. But let me go to Dr. Aka. Doc, what would have been the best, with regards to these increases? Could we have increased one and left one, piled them all on one, and this guy say?
Yeah, I think that, as I said, some of the taxes are not just necessary. We've overpaid them, and I've already given examples as the toll and the boss margin. Then when you take the energy debt recovery levy, that is also a huge tax they are imposing on us. Yes, we owe, but we believe that it is time. Even now, when you go and ask ECG how much the government owes them, they don't know. If you ask the finance minister how much they owe ECG, they don't know. So we should have an independent audit. How much do we owe? That is one. What caused this debt? I mean, if we can solve it, we solve it. Then if we are going to...
But he was mentioning that, illegal tapping, transmission losses,
yes,
and delayed payments.
Yes, they are all part. But let's take even delayed payment. As at December, I mean, Accra East customers of ECG, they've not even received their bill, those who are on the postpaid, because ECG is implementing a customer service software for postpaid customers. So as we are all crying and campaigning for prepaid meters, they've now bought a software for postpaid customers. And because of that, there's a lot of delays and all those things. But that is one. But I think that we should have audit. Let us know how much we owe. So even if we are going to impose taxes, there should be some sunset clauses that we owe 9 billion. And 9 billion, when you add 12 pesos on every liter, we are going to pay within 4 years. After the 4 years, we abolish the tax, so that it will not become a perpetual tax like the toll. Apart from that, I think one good thing we could have done is that we can make VRA a viable company. I mean, we can invest in it and list VRA on the Ghana Stock Exchange, so that the government retains majority share, 51%, 49% from individual shareholders. Then they can use that money to fund VRA. At least it will reduce government interference somehow, and it will help. But if we always say that, yes, government owes them, VRA has to do investment. Already, when you pay your electricity bill, you pay what we call capacity charges. And within that capacity charges is some of this investment that should go to VRA. So we are paying for some of these things already. Now you impose another tax for VRA to pay their debt and again to do investment. They will come again that is not enough. Then the consumer will have to pay. So yes, some of the taxes are not necessary. That is one. Some of them, like the road tax, that is increased by about 300%. I mean, that is too much. Then the debt recovery, let us have a sunset clause. Maybe 4 years, this is it. Then we pay, reduce the stabilization fund. And in the medium term, let's VRA on Ghana Stock Exchange.
Is Baumia vindicated when he said, look, the Dumso problem is a money problem? Because all the time they say, no, it's not money, it's technical, it's this, or, it's that, it's this, But today they come and say, look, VRA is broke, to the point where if you go to a bank, they say, hey, minimum, this is Sandahu, or no.
Yeah, I mean, let me say that money is our major problem. In fact, when you look at all these Dumso, because even to get fuel to power our thermal plants, we have to go to Nigeria. They're supposed to supply us 123 million cubic feet of gas a day. Between September and December, they were doing 35 million. Look at 123 to 35, because we owe them about $181 million. And I don't know, we didn't make any plans in the budget for such payment. And when you even look at the power, the Ministry of Power, the budget, the allocation, we are depending on donor support for 87% of that ministry's budget. So that is how 87% of the total allocation to the Ministry of Power. So that is how unserious we are with power.
Hey,
power
and the minister
issues.
was gosh like that. 87% of the power was
from donor support. So that is what we are expecting in 2016. So if donors do not bring these monies, I mean, how are we going to even fund power? So we have serious financial challenges, and we should commit that. These are our challenges. Let us know generational distribution. As for distribution, the MCC Compact 2 is coming in. They are bringing some money, but they have certain conditions we have to meet. One of them is that government will have to pay its debt to ECG. And what I'm saying is that before you even pay the debt, what caused the debt? Because bungalows and ministries use power, they don't pay. Fix prepaid meters. This is not some rocket science. Fix them. Then you are telling us that you don't understand. You give them the budget. You give the ministries the money to pay, but they are not paying. So fix it. If you don't pay, you don't get the air condition. You don't get the electricity to work. And I think some of these things can be solved.
Let me go to the phones and speak to David Agbe, who's the governance expert. Hello, David, and welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Nana.
Thank you, too, for joining us and for this very important discussion. David, first of all, let me take your preliminary comments on how, you know, the event that took place today, you know, basically meet the president, if I may say.
Yes, thank you once again, Nana, for the opportunity. I must say that there is another voice on the background speaking Akan language.
I'll get, Mr. Producer, can you take the Akan language off the line for me? Any better now?
The noise is still on the background, which is sounding more than your voice.
I see. I don't know if my sound man can hear me and if he can do something about it.
I think that it is coming from Adum.
I can imagine. There's all the studios are buzzing today. Are they doing anything about the sound? Somebody talk to me.
Yes, but Nana, I don't know if you could hear me.
Yes, I can hear you very loud and clear. Very loud and clear.
Thank
yes.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Let me say that today our president did an excellent job by engaging the media very well. And I think that all the media houses that represented the press briefing were also given an opportunity to ask several questions, which the president attempted to answer most of them appropriately. But one of the thorny issues that a lot of people were finding it difficult to understand was the issue of the Guantanamo Bay detainees to Ghana, which some of us has also issued a press release on that. Our view is that we cherish the expressions and the voices so far across the length and breadth of the country that a lot of people are not in agreement with the government. But some of us having a bit of understanding about diplomacy and international relations, some of us, we are not surprised about it at all, in that at a point in time, if government is taking decisions about foreign policy, it is always a controversial issue around the world that citizens normally find it difficult to understand when it comes to foreign policy implementation. And so we are not surprised about it at all. But one of the things that we need to realize is also the fact that the international system is full of, conflict and cooperation. And at a certain point in time, you need to do what as we will call accommodation. And so some of these issues coming up, citizens will find it difficult to understand, but we do appreciate the fact that implementation of foreign policy is always a difficult and thorny issue across the world. But we must say that as we speak now, if government makes any attempt of trying to return the detainees back to United States of America or any other country, it will actually have a negative international repercussion on the country. It will have a serious diplomatic, discourse, and people, Ghanaians, one way or the other, might suffer for it because as we speak now, America is the one ruling the world. American hegemonic influence is all over the world. And so whatever decision that we take, we need to be very careful. Although we do have our own territorial boundaries, we have our own country, we have our own sovereignty. But when it comes to foreign policy implementation, it is always a complex issue that Ghanaians at a point in time we need to understand. Nana?
David, I think the general sentiment, and we all agree, but is this not a bit peculiar that, these two individuals, guilty or not, are tagged with a stigma? And
Nana, I would have loved to hear your voice because your voice is a very nice voice. but there is still undertone over there which is not making me enjoy your voice.
Okay, let me get production to cut the call and call you back to see if it will be better.
I would have wished that he could call me on my other line, and I'll be so, happy to speak to the issue.
Okay, so I'm going to cut the call and then try and call him on the other line. So let me cut the call and then let me come to studio and let us all, at least we're all Ghanaians, so let's see what our sentiment is around the table with regards to our new our new visitors. Now, Suleiman, I don't know, I can't appeal to your Christian because I think you're Muslim. Yes. So I can't even appeal to your Christian senses. But I'm sure somewhere within the Quran you have to embrace prisoners. So here we are with a couple of prisoners who love us. Samwejan cheered on Ghana when we were playing football. Should the president have consulted, say, look, guys, I've been approached, need to host these two guys. We've gone through everything. They seem pretty much okay. Should we do it or should we not do it? Or, damn the consequences. Listen, if I need N1, America will come and bail me out. Let me just go and bring these guys. I said I'll take them to my village because my road is bad.
Well, Nana, I think it's a very thorny issue. Of course, I believe that almost every religion or religious tradition would have that aspect of being receptive to people in need and supporting people in need. And at this moment, I think that is the picture that is being created. And I think the president did well by appealing to our emotions, maybe better than really raising the very...
You see, the president said they are low risk. America says they are high risk. So which is which? On this, there are two. One was low and high risk. The president was, we've interviewed them. They are all, literally minimal risk. So which is which?
Well, I think officially, listening to American officials, they echo or re-echo whatever the president was saying in terms of the risk levels that we face. To be honest with you, I was also convinced by the president's argument that, look, yes, these are folks whose records are known and their association with certain groups, terrorist groups are known and therefore definitely ought to be considered dangerous. But we live in a region where, because of ECOWAS protocols on free movement and so on, you can have people affiliated with Boko Haram and so on coming into the country, even without requiring visa because of the free movement protocol and so on and so forth. And therefore, what is important is really making sure that we are on top when it comes to our national security. Of course, I buy into the argument by many that, yes, we can be here and be praising ourselves about our national security. We've done interviews and so on and so forth. But I don't think that we have a tenth of the capacity that America has when it comes to national security, their intelligence agencies, and so on and so forth. And that's a reflection of who we are as a society. Not to say that our folks, the Ghana Armed Forces, the BNIs, and so on are not doing a great job. It is just a reflection of our standard or where we are as a developing country. And I just feel that it would have been prudent if this was subjected to some national conversation. Of course, the Americas and many of the Western countries have always extended some assistance to us. They also benefit quite a great deal from us. Maybe even they benefit more than we do benefit from them. But as a member of the global community, I think that we cannot sometimes avoid extending hands of cooperation to our partners. But as I said, I think that it would have been prudent if this was subjected to some national debate and national discussion, so that at the end of the day, if we feel majority of Ghanaians feel, yes, why not? These folks have been in detention for 14 years without trial. And I believe that this can only be perpetrated by a country like America, even though they champion civil liberties and so on and so forth. Otherwise, why would you incarcerate somebody for 14 years without trial, which in itself should be subjected to some conversation.
David is back on the line, so let me see if he can hear me better. David, is this line any better?
Yes, Nana, it's very much better.
Thank you very much, David. Now you see I just googled USA military budget for 2015, $601 billion. That's like the whole West Africa, GDP put together. That's what they used to feed their military. So what these pastors are saying, that a country that has $601 billion just to give to their soldiers, if that's police crack, fire service, just the soldiers. If they say that no, Charlie, we don't want these guys here, our whole GDP is like 70 billion, the whole country, including soldiers, everything. So that's where our worry is, that if these guys are rejecting it, how much goodwill and so that you want to go and accept it. So that's where the Ghanaians are coming from.
But I just love the way you just frame the question. Nana, let's understand once again that the international system is full of conflict and cooperation. And at a certain point in time, the hegemonic power or the world superpower, one way or the other, they will exert their influence on the peripheral country or the third world country. So once upon a time, Ghana, as a small country, we can never compare ourselves with the United States of America.
David, but can't we say, look, 300 million, we take one, so 600 million, give us two. We should put a price on it.
No, that is what makes the international system quite murkier at a certain point in time. We could decide that Ghana, we have our own sovereignty, we have our nationalism, we have our territorial state. But ask yourself, are we independent as we wish to do? Ghana, we are artificially independent. We are not economically independent. So every point in time, we have to go cap in hand to go and borrow money from the world superpower, like an America, like China, like France, like Britain, like, those developed countries, those countries that make foreign policy. We may have our foreign policy all right, but we need to understand that the international system is more deeper than what we are seeing, and the international system is more about cooperation and understanding one another. And all over the world, United States is the biggest economy on the world. And more to the point, when it comes to sophistication, when it comes to military power, when it comes to economic power, when it comes to human capital and its power, America covers it all. So in terms of measuring power in the world, America has it. You will recall that during the Cold War, when the world was struggling for a power between an American and then Russia, around 1994 that America became the world superpower, every decision that they take, whether you like it or not, at a certain point in time, you will be caught in the world. They brought democracy. All of us are doing or practicing democracy. They brought human rights. They brought every policy dimension across the world. It is America which is engineering that policy. So Africa as a continent and Ghana as a young country, once upon a time, we may try as much as possible to exhibit maybe our emotions when America is pushing its foreign policy. But once upon a time, we should realize where we are. We should realize what is Ghana's contribution to the international community. What are we doing to shape our foreign policy? What are we doing such that we will not fall out of the world map? That is what we need to do. And as we speak now, some of these decisions, when it comes, and Ghanaians, we want to insist that no, these people need to go away here and there, then we should understand that we are going to have a serious crisis on our hands that we cannot control. Nana, you will appreciate the fact that since independence, that Ghana started crafting its foreign policy when Kwame Nkrumah was alive. We had what we call non-alliance. We were not aligned to the east or to the west. We were trying to make smart way of trying to say that we will not align with Russia or we will not align ourselves with America. We want to be in the middle. So Kwame Nkrumah said we have non-alliance foreign policy. But along the line, all of us have been caught in the web that in 1950s, 1960s, Kwame Nkrumah went to America and they were able to give us a lot of grants to establish Akosombo Dam. And right from then, we started our foreign policy with America. Right from 1950s up to date, all the time, we have had a good cooperation. We have had a good understanding. We have had a very good partnership with Americans all the time. And so most of the things that we've been doing, American government has been supporting us strategically. And so once upon a time, we cannot say that we are not part of the international community. We cannot say that Ghana is so much independent, and therefore some of these things will try as much as possible to maybe do away with it. Then it means that we are taking ourselves out of the world. And so we need to understand the world system. We need to understand the world governance processes such that Ghana will not fall out of the map.
Thank you very much, David. Let me take a quick break here and come back. Don't move, but still begs my question that I'm not saying we are cutting ourselves off, but does it mean I have to take your reject? Don't move. Well, let me catch up with some of the comments from you. Ferguson Godwin Ayite says, what was the criteria for selecting journalists to the presidential press briefing? I was expecting well-seasoned journalists like Malik, Kweku Bako, Kosi Pratt, Manasseh, Sky, Sifakain, and the likes to ask important questions on the minds of Ghanaians. Not these young chaps who now want to be known and made some personal benefits. They suddenly have forgotten all the topical issues bothering the average Ghanaian. I'm sure they did not to be too harsh. David Jima says, it looks to me it was create, act, and show cinema. Kudos to the president's drama team. Their script for the journalists were well rehearsed and it produced a stunning ovation performance from His Excellency. David, what are you talking about? Abdul Razak Yaha says, it was okay, but I think authorities in the banking sector in Brongahafo should be sanctioned as well, because it was right at their noses that these heartbreaking acts were perpetrated by so-called microfinances. I don't think they have jurisdiction over that. Prosper Selenso Achichubi. President Mahama was very fantastic with his delivery, but that bleeped me off was the performance of the media people in their question asking. All these noises they have been making in the country, the opportunity is there for them to ask questions that bother the relevant issues of the country, and they now seek to ask needless questions. Shame. I think people were not happy with some of the questions. I don't know. And this is look at you. He never answered any question from we Ghanaians. It was a small section of the media, and they are not the mouthpiece of Ghanaians. Well, he couldn't speak to all the 500,000. Let me come to studio and talk. Okay, no, let me. David, thank you very much. David, thank you very
much for your cooperation, sir.
Thank you too, David. Thank you. Doc, let me come to you. You haven't said anything about two friends.
Well,
you're a Christian.
Yes,
you have to be compassionate.
The only thing I can say is that I've been following, and I think that some of these are important issues. I mean, very important. It has consequences, or can have consequences. So the president could have consulted at least Parliament. Let us see. And if Parliament agrees, then we educate people. I mean, this is what we want to do. And as David is saying, international policy and all these things, I mean, so that people understand. And if you don't do it, then we receive it as a surprise. I mean, that is where so many theories and others come in. So what I can say is that, yeah, President could have at least consulted. Let us all have at least expressed an opinion that this is what we want to do. They have a history that is not so bad, that is very bad. But again, probably they could have changed and all those things. So he could have done that. I can't say more.
From the comments, I think people were a bit disappointed with the questions that the media people asked. Fine, maybe, it wasn't 100%, but, was it that bad?
Some of the questions were quite good. For me, I followed mostly on the energy. We had 3 questions on energy, on the doomsaw, on the energy sector levies. Then I think there was another energy question. So these were quite good. The Ameri deal.
Yeah.
The president said.
I said it's gone back to.
Yeah, PWC and all those. So for us, I think that was quite good because the deal was we spoke about it. We brought this value for money issues and all that. People actually lambasted us and all those things. But the president sent it to the PWC. But that is also an issue. Because one of the main reasons we had this Ameri brouhaha is the fact that value for money was more like thrown to the dogs. And because we did what we call sole sourcing, everything in Ghana here is done through emergency.
So the president said it's only 1.7% of government purchases that go through sole sourcing. Every other one.
If you look at this, look at the example. Why are we going to Price Waterhouse? Because we want to look at the value for money and all those things. Then Price Waterhouse was also selected through sole sourcing. Now the action you want to take to ratify the Ameri deal, you did it through sole sourcing and you are telling us that. So why didn't you open up? What are the terms?
But the president's posture seems to say that, listen, since I'm buying the thing on higher purchase, I don't have any choice but to pay, double the price.
No, that is very wrong. It's a very wrong argument. We don't have the money. We need power. We need 250 megawatts. At least, why don't you go outside there, advertise that this is what I need on these terms? There's so many companies, even GE. Do you understand? Ameri got this through Medca from GE, and GE operates in Ghana. So we could have at least negotiated with GE. Some payment to the middleman could have just been removed. Then Ghana could have saved something. So we are not saying that, we had the money we didn't buy. But we could have had options and selected the best for Ghana. That is what we didn't do, and that is why we are paying so much. You should have apologized.
And then there's another deal which he says that build, operate, transfer, but it's 20 years. And after 20 years, we pay $1 and then own it. But then the lifespan of the machine is also 20 years. So basically, after that, it's kaput.
Yes, you pay and you go and throw it away. So what we are saying is this, so the energy investment is very expensive. So normally when you want to do it, do what we call open and competitive bidding system. This is what we need. Give yourself about 3 months. We write through America Power, but they came about 11 months after signing the deal. So we could have just used 3 months to do advert. Have technical people from VRA and Co to examine the proposals we are having. And we select something that is best for Ghana. Most of the time, look at the thermal plants we have. You own it today, tomorrow it is off. Because we go for sole sourcing, and it's not good for the country.
Well. All the topics that we are talking about today, this year seems to look like they have to have several parts in it. I'm sure different dimensions will be coming, and we'll be talking about it. I want to say thank you very much to Sule Barima. Thank you to Dr. Ishmael Aka for coming. Thank you for tuning in. As I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again, but the conversation will by all means continue. Thank you very much.